is a PG podcast, but then Devin just kept on dropping shits and fucks, and
I'm just trying to figure out what's in her mouth.
I just want to see him interview Francesco Accoli.
Oh, he's a good human being, is what he would say about himself, I'm sure.
Who's hosting this thing?
Take charge, Kevin, would you? Jesus.
First time we ever met those guys. That was the major drunken pub argument.
I think you guys are the worst.
I'm going to have to probably watch some Canucks hockey, unfortunately.
Just making friends left, right, and center, and probably some enemies as well.
Tell him to shut up. He needs to hear that every once in a while.
Off to a good start.
All right. We are live.
It's okay to talk when it goes live.
Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hockey Podcast. You can, of course, follow us on Twitter at podcast_hockey, Facebook.com, the Hockey Podcast, YouTube.com, the Hockey Podcast. How many subscribers do we have on the podcast?
169.
Nice.
You guys are 4 years old.
Very nice. It's 100 plus the 69, so it's
Yes.
very nice.
Yes. We all have, every other podcast or YouTube channel in the world has a goal to get to 100, 200, 300, 400. Our goal's 69, 169, 269, 369.
Differently here.
We are different, yes.
You could say that. Yeah.
And then you can follow
screws loose as well.
2 or 3 screws loose here as well. Of course, you can subscribe to the audio after that. Hello, Tyler. How are you?
Gentlemen, hello. I'm well. Sorry for abandoning you the last few weeks there. I was all busy with the show during my trip, and then one show after the trip, and then just trying to enjoy my summer back home, softball tournament, different things going on. But nice to be back with you guys today.
We did miss you.
I missed you guys. I missed the banter. I missed the the fun about the hair. I mean, Devin's not here, so that kind of diminishes the entertainment value here between us. But yeah, no, I've missed you guys.
Tyler has the best hair in podcasting. That's what I.
Stop it. Well, now I'm at the stage of it's starting to get long. Should I cut it? But then hockey season's coming. Do I want to get the flow going? And
yeah, you gotta have.
Boys want it long, so I think I'm going to let it grow a bit longer.
Yeah, the air. Yeah, the hockey flow. That
yes.
With the referee and that and then you get that the offset, the gold right there.
Oh,
yeah. Chris, how are you?
I'm well. Little hungover, but feeling decent.
Good. What had a couple of drinks.
Well, as I'm sure Sean will eventually get to it, we went out to the Marteloup Brewery last night with Devin, and a couple of beers were had.
Fair.
Yeah.
Sean, hello.
Beers, and then hello, and then we discovered that Devin has an elite prospects page, and had fun with that. I want to find a really good picture of him and submit it for them to use. And when I say really good, I mean we'll find something good. We'll find something fun.
Well, I'll go through my collection from the trip in July, and then we'll find something.
Oh yeah, I still got to edit the golf video for that too. I've got some Devin clips that we could use of his stance, which is I mean he's unavailable for Tinder, but there's a couple of Tinder profile pictures in here that we could use. And I mean, Devin, last night, thank you, Marteloup, for the delicious Heidi, our server, and the puppy cuddles.
Quite the typo.
Yeah.
I think deliciousness or food, hopefully, is what we're.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. Watch Devin run in here, too. Anyway, Devin, we miss you. We love you.
Devin, Father Doug misses you as well, I'm sure.
Yes. How is Father Doug going to?
Oh, he's good. He's excited to see the big pile of wood getting cut and stacked for winter firewood. It's almost finished. When I'm done here, I'll be going there to probably work at that. So as long as there's production at the yard, he's a happy man.
Right. And we'll say hello from all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We will also. What? I missed it.
I was wondering when that would happen.
I was wondering about this.
Don't worry, Doug. With no Devin, I'll fucking step up and there
we go.
It is a team effort here. It is a team effort for sure. We do have to just before we get into some of the news of the week, the Canucks tweeted this out. It is the 10-year anniversary of the passing of Rick Rippon. A very sad anniversary for that. I mean, he was such a popular Canucks player, and I wanted to start by we'll get, I wanted to bring that up. I mean, it's sad, but I wanted to honor him and mention him as well.
Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, one of several NHL players that were known for being fighters that struggled later on with concussions and whatever else, other issues sort of associated with their playing career. And so, yes, rest in peace, Rick Rippon, and you are missed immensely.
Very much so.
Yeah, that was a tough summer because not only did we lose Rick Rippon, we lost Wade Belak as well that summer, and then
Bugard,
Derek Bugard as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, and the hockey talk stuff that Kevin Bieksa and the Canucks have been a big part of spearheading is a great legacy for those players, and hopefully we can, as a whole, we can be supporting them better going forwards.
For sure. Yeah. Check out Hockey Talks. All the mental health stuff that you can get if you need the support. We won't dig into that today, but it's a good reminder. Check that stuff out. It's very important. So we'll start with how Canucks Twitter overreacted this weekend. I'm just gonna, I'm not going to be objective. There was an overreaction. This is, I'll get into the context and we'll have the discussion about it. But Elias Pettersson spoke this week about his contract situation and no progress, but he's not worried about it. To me, everyone was, that part. I don't think anybody was really worried. And I have to be honest, when I read, I just want to play where there's a chance of winning, I honestly thought nothing of it. I thought, I think every hockey player wants that same thing. Anyone that is competitive in some way wants to be in a situation that they want to win. I mean, Jack Eichel has said the same thing. Connor McDavid has probably said the same thing. I mean, you don't get into hockey without wanting to win. I mean, it's just, Sean as a wrestling fan will know this too. If you're not wrestling to be the champion per se, even though it's a role, then what the hell are you doing in the business? This is the same thing. So I honestly, when I heard, I just want to play where there's a chance of winning, I was like, that's no big deal to me. That's what Pettersson wants to do. Everything is that's fine. I have no problem. Twitter have an explosion. Good grief. My gosh. Some demanding Pettersson take a pay cut. Some demanding that Pettersson needs to be better.
Injured less is what I read.
Yeah, he needs to be injured less. What am I missing here? Like, tell me what I'm missing here. This to me felt like an overreaction.
Well, what we're missing here is that it's August and there's not enough for people to do, evidently. So they're just they're gonna overanalyze comments. This is how it always is, not just in Vancouver, but all the Canadian teams. Anytime there's some comment about a player's status with the franchise and the future, there's unease about that. But yeah, what I mean, did you want him to say, I don't really care about wins and losses. I just want to play. I collect a paycheck. Like, what do you, like, what do you want, right? Leave it to the Canuck fan base to turn a non-story into a fairly big one, evidently. And of course, the radio stations and the rest of the media are going to, milk it for, as much as they can. It's already a slow news period for hockey. So, they went with that. But to Elias, great. Yeah, no, I think we all felt like he was a competitor, and he's a guy that's there to win and wants to be the guy. But at the same time, I think it is true that he has to do more, I think, on his end of it to get the Canucks to where they want to go. And he knows that.
For sure. And not to be a broken record, but Canucks Twitter will Canucks Twitter.
Yeah, unfortunately, I hate that because I want it to stop being so ridiculous, because it's not, there's nothing rational when you look at that and rationally, and he wants to win. Yeah, of course he does. And that doesn't mean that he wants out. He didn't say that. What he says is, if the Canucks aren't in a position to be competitive, being in the playoffs, pushing to win rounds, let alone going as deep as they can, if they're not in that position, why would he want to stay? And to me, there was no issues with what he said. And the other thing is, to all those people yelling and screaming at him needing to be better, that is true. But hockey's also a sport where one player doesn't make a difference as much as in other sports.
Yeah.
Like I said, the best example right now is go north of Calgary and go to Edmonton and see how they've got two of the best, two top 10 players in the world, and they still can't get out of the first round. They still can't put together a play, get it done. So you have to be able to have the right players around him. And that's part of it too. And that, if there was anything to come from that, it was a bit of a message to Aquilini and the Aquilinis and Benning and the management team, saying, you better put a good team around me, because I want to win. And if you're not, then I want to go put somewhere that will.
Again, we want honest answers from athletes when they're asked questions that are not the cliche questions, and so we got an honest answer there, and that should be. I don't want to celebrate is maybe not the word, but we should applaud that. We should applaud that we actually got an honest answer out of him, and I think it is a bit of a glimpse into where Petey and his representation are at as far as the length of his next contract. I think it's fair to say that he's headed for a bridge deal here, because he wants to see where the team is at in a few years, not 7 or 8 years before signing that next contract. So whatever the case, I don't see a scenario where he's going to pull a William Nylander and hold out till December. He'll be signed, and we'll get into this because the Canucks have made a couple of other RFA signings here in the past week. But there is cap space for him and Quinn Hughes to sign. Now it's just going to come down to the dollar amount for each of them and the term, and then how things kind of look for the offseason next year, in particular with Pesser becoming a free agent. So, that's a next year thing, but all those sort of calculations have to be sorted out first before those guys sign on the dotted line, but it's going to happen.
Then he's also headed for a bridge deal just due to cap management, because we freed up a lot this offseason, but we've used a fair chunk of that. So it's starting to get down to count and change.
Yeah. Now, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, bringing him in, it kind of sounds like that's a plus for Petey. It's another Swedish player. I think he's played at the World Championships with in the past, and so there's, and I certainly that's got to help the situation, even though OEL carries an enormous cap hit. The Canucks are you could see the urgency in this offseason from management. If they were going to bring back the same manager and coach, and there was going to be fairly significant changes to the roster, and they're doing that. And, hopefully that gives Petey and Hughes and others in the core the confidence to know that the team is committed to building a winner.
Not only that, but as the Vancouver Canucks, we have to have a marquee Swedish defenseman.
Yeah, it's just a given, isn't it?
Yeah, Canucks is it's IKEA for Swedish defensemen. Yeah. I guess the question, one of the questions I think that has come into my mind though is, the injured part, he needs to be better. I don't think anyone will disagree with that, but what are we expecting from Pettersson this year? Like, we're at the end of, if we're talking about it, we're grading in April, the end of the season, whenever the season's over, hopefully there's playoffs. What do we think is a good year for Pettersson, production wise?
So you're talking statistically?
Yeah. Where are we,
I hope he's healthy, being able to play 70 plus games and 30 plus goals. I think would be a good step forward for him. You look at his.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, he had 28 goals in 71 games in his rookie year, and then he got 27 goals in 68 games in his second year, 1920. He had 10 goals in 26 games. I just think it's. I think if he needs to take that next step, he has to hit that 30 goal plateau, and he has to be at or above the point per game status.
For me, the statistics are one thing. The other part of it is just more the look in general. I want to see a PD that's going to be, the clearly the Canucks' best player night in and night out, and be dominant throughout the season. Not have long stretches where he gets quiet or he's getting pushed off the puck too easily. That kind of thing. We want to see him assert himself and really show that he is one of the elite talents in the NHL. And if we see that, the rest of the team will follow. That'll give everybody the boost that, we have that top end talent here that is going to, produce for us and carry us through the more difficult times. And I think the effect on the rest of the team will be huge if we can see that happen again. So this is going back to like 2 years ago, PD, right? I'm less concerned about numbers. 30 goals would be great, but if it's only 24 and the Canucks are in the playoffs and he's still a major impact away from the puck, that's good enough for me.
Fair enough. And I also think just the fact that he's been putting on more weight is definitely going to help his game. Like when we drafted him, he was skin and bones pretty much. Whereas I think most of us have seen the photos of him on his vacation in Greece, and he's clearly put on, pounds, but has also made sure that it's toned pounds.
Mm-hmm.
So he may have went to McDonald's, but maybe not. Is that what I'm hearing?
The Canuck nutritionist would say otherwise.
Yeah. Comment here from Dylan. I'm not doubting Peter. I just don't think wanting to win is not cookie cutter. I don't think we're saying that there's a cookie cutter way to win. Of course not. I think there are various ways to win, but I mean, he wants to win. I don't think
it's just more the comments. And for me, wasn't necessarily, it didn't come across as cookie cutter for me because of the way he said it.
Yeah.
And everything. I think, it is, because he, in Dylan's other previous comment, he brought up Christian Ehrhoff, and Ehrhoff said he wanted to win and then went to Buffalo, but Buffalo also backed a Brinks truck up to his front lawn, and money talks.
Yeah.
You get offered a lot of money back, and you've got a short earning window as a hockey player in all comparative to like how long most people live. You got to go for it when you can.
And wasn't that a 10-year deal too? I think he's actually might still be getting paid by the Sabres right now.
It was a very long deal. Yeah, no, it's a valuable point there. But still, I mean, when and I love Sean's Brink truck references, but when the Brink truck arrives with the money, even if it's from the Buffalo Sabres, I mean, as a free agent, you're still looking at it like, well, they're committed to spending to add a good player. You know, if you're Christian Ehrhoff, you're feeling like you're a good player, and so I still think you go in with some degree of optimism that that they're trying to win. You know, but yeah, you know, he could have gone other places probably for less money and definitely an improved chance at winning the cup.
Well, even last year, Taylor Hall, right? He said, I want to win, and then he went to Buffalo.
No, on a 1-year deal with a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then he got traded at the deadline.
Yeah.
Like I think that's a potential situation for Alex Edler. If LA's not in the playoff hunt, he's on a 2-year deal.
2 years, yeah.
2-year. So he could be someone that a team looks at the deadline. So just because you go to one place doesn't mean you're not necessarily looking. Maybe you're playing the long game.
Well, I mean, ultimately that contract was brilliant for Taylor Hall to do because he ended up being in Boston. He's in a better situation. He got the prove it deal that he proved it enough for someone to get him, and now he's secure in Boston. So it worked for him. It just didn't at the time. People were scratching their head when you hear a comment, "I want to win," and then you go to Buffalo. But I again, the overreaction of that. I guess one of the other things that I've been thinking about too is who is Pettersson? I mean, we have obviously. I mean, there's an obvious. We have Pettersson, Miller, Besser, and I think that's obvious. But I have a hunch we're going to see a little bit more Pettersson, Garland this year than I think people realize. I just look at those two as a style, and I think that they could have some really good chemistry together.
Wouldn't it be nice to have Travis Green on so we could ask him that?
Hey, Travis, you are welcome to come on the show.
Come on and tell us what your plans
Come on and
are.
tell us your lines. We would be happy to. Yeah.
Well, you'd hope that they would at least give that a try at some point here. Yeah. I mean, you got this shiny new toy. Let's see what you have here, right?
There's gonna be a lot of flexibility what they can do. I think whether it's shuffling Besser and Garland around between Horvat and Pettersson's lines, or whether it's Miller being a center or a winger, or let alone you got Höglander and Podkolzin coming up too, who can add some depth and some flexibility on what they do.
Yeah, and then they just signed Jason Dickinson yesterday. Also can play multiple positions.
Yeah, I think the bright spot of this offseason is just the versatility that we have in our forward lines now.
Yeah. I mean, but I do also think it's also fair to expect a bit more from Brock Besser this year as well. I think he's another guy that needs. I mean, I'm not saying he's been terrible. That's not what I'm saying. But Tyler, you have said this often that we have criticized. There's been a lot of criticism in Canucks management and not a lot of criticism on Canucks players. And I do think it's fair if the Canucks are going. And I think right now in my early preview.
Yeah.
In my early preview here, I have the Canucks finishing in second. Right now, things could change if everything stays the same. But I do think for that to happen, Brock Besser needs to be a bit better than he was last year.
A bit better, yeah. I mean, last year he really bounced back from the year before, and we've talked about why the year before was a challenging year for him with his father and contract negotiation and coming off of injuries. But I thought we saw a really solid Brock Besser last year. So now if he can, as you say, take that up another notch, a bit better. Dramatically so, I don't think it's realistic, but if we can see at least incremental improvement off of last year, then that's a huge plus for the Canucks. And of course, he's heading into a contract negotiation, so he should be well motivated. And I am expecting a big year from Brock Besser for sure. If people want to see the Canucks back in the playoffs and make some noise in the playoffs, the whole roster has to be good, and it's reasonable to critique the performance of the top end for sure.
We're talking about Brock Besser, who was scoring at a 30-goal pace and a 70-point pace last year.
Yeah.
I think
that's why I say, like, to expect it to be hugely better is asking a lot.
No.
It's for the Canucks. If they get that from Besser, they get Miller to get back to not being as volatile. Petey's playing well. You've got Garland and Horvat as well. That's a good base to help them be a playoff team and push and surprise people who doubt them. I think there's going to be you look at that, and I said I've always been someone who's like looked at how Brock Besser plays. He plays in a way that even if he's not producing, he's still helping. He goes into the corners and digs pucks out. He's a big body. He gets shots off that create rebounds and creates havoc, and he's a threat with that. So I think it's so you do want players to improve, but I don't. Like I said, it's a 30 goal pace and 70 points, and he could potentially be your third or fourth best forward. That'd be amazing.
Now, here's the thing, guys, is that, so, you gave me the great segue here. I mean, we're talking about how they've improved up front, and I think, you go down the list of names and you even go further down to Höglander and Podkolzin, and you're feeling pretty good. There's Tyler Mott there. You've got Brandon Sutter as your fourth line center on a better, friendly $1.125 million cap hit. But none of that's going to matter very much if the defense is the shits, right? So that's for me more the concern. If they can't get out of their own end, then we got some bigger issues there. And one of Jack Rathbone, Olio Levy, or perhaps even beyond that, is going to have to really pick it up here to give the Canucks that solid back end that can move the puck out of their own end up to those forwards, and obviously it goes without saying, OEL's got to be better than he was in Arizona.
I'm going to quickly jump back to forward just for a quick moment, just because I think now that we have Dickinson, it's going to free up Bo from having those defensive matchups all the time. I'm predicting that Bo's going to have a sneaky good offensive season now that he can have a little bit more free reign with his offensive game.
It was 1 year ago yesterday he scored that overtime goal in St. Louis. I mean, I do agree, Chris, that I think a lot of people that don't follow the Canucks on a regular basis don't realize how unbelievably talented he is, especially in clutch situations. If you need a goal, Bo Horvat will get you a goal. He has the talent and the ability to get it in that way. And I do think he's going to be offense. I think he's going to have a better year for sure offensively. I'm really curious for me how the combination works so far. Like that's what I'm intrigued about. I mean, because to me, I in my eye, I like Horvat. I'm liking Horvat and Besser, Pettersson, Garland, the combination a little bit better. Horvat, Pearson, Besser better, and then Pettersson, Miller, Garland is the way I would go. But just kind of on eye, but we'll have to see. And when Travis Green comes on the podcast, and we can ask him, he'll tell us. And then you have Jason. I mean, and I think having Jason Dickinson, you're right, in defensive situations, and sort of, I think let's not forget what Jason Dickinson can contribute offensively as well. And that was one of the huge problems last year, is the bottom six. The last couple of years, the bottom six, you were not getting a lot of production. You'll get production from Jason Dickinson. This is a sneaky, for those that are not following the Canucks, this is a very sneaky good acquisition here. I did leave him off the Dallas Stars protected list. I didn't think that Dallas would protect him, but I also thought that the Kraken would be there would be a good chance that the Kraken would have picked him up. So it was a really good acquisition. And I think, getting a 3-year contract at a good hit with Jason Dickinson here, I think it's going to help the Canucks going forward.
If you're getting 20, if he can push up between 25 and 30 points and be a solid defensive forward for the Canucks, that's a steal of a deal. We're talking about a player whose career high in points is 22. in 67 games. He had 15 in 51 games last year. He's a good depth player and very, very good defensively. So if you can find a way to give him some line mates that can help him produce, and you can get that out of him, then you're laughing. You're laughing with that contract, because for what he brings, it's going to be very, very good value if you can get a little bit extra production out of him than he's currently shown in his career so far.
And with Pearson and Podkolzin potentially being on his wings, I feel like that's going to be a decently good checking line with some offensive punch.
Yeah, that's the big thing with the flexibility that the Canucks have, because I look at what they could do, and yeah, you can keep I honestly think that I don't think we're going to see Garland with Petey to start the season. I think they're going to try him with one of the other lines first, because I think they're going to keep a lot of the line together. Or if they keep Miller at center, that's where Höglander or Podkolzin come in and slide into that left wing there. But I think it's you look at the potential line mates that he has. Doesn't matter. Like, even if you have Miller at center, you slide Dickinson to the wing. You have Dickinson, Miller, and then at that point, if you have your choice of Garland, Podkolzin, or Höglander on that right side, and that could really help the Canucks create 3 good scoring lines if they do it that way. But they can also load up the top 6 and go that way. So I think it's, again, lots of flexibility. I don't think it's going to be cut and dry that who's going to be where. I think there's going to be some tinkering. We actually have preseason games this year for them to try things out. We know that Höglander works with Horvat and Pearson. So I think like I said, there's lots of options out there. It doesn't even matter. And I don't think it's a slam dunk that Dickinson's the third line center on this team. I think there's an option that I think they are going to legit look at going very strong down the middle and moving Miller there.
So Dylan has it like this: Horvat, Petey, Besser, Miller, Pearson, Garland.
Yeah, she just puts another comment with, I guess, better grammar.
Miller, Petey, Garland, Horvat, Pearson, Besser. Okay, but I guess, and I don't want to be hot takey here, but Tyler brought up the defense. Is there? I mean, it feels like the entire National Hockey League world is waiting for the trade of Jack Eichel, but is there still a possibility that the Canucks trade one forward to get another good defenseman? Is that still out there in your mind?
No,
not realistically. No.
Yeah, I don't see it. I think they like the depth that they have up front, and I think you look at what they've got on the blue line. I think there's potential there. I think they've made conscious effort to have some bigger guys who can handle the grind down low when you're defending in their own zone, but they still have good puck movers. Tyler Myers is a decent puck mover. You got Ekman Larson can be a good puck mover, let alone we all know how good Quinn Hughes can be. And then don't count out Jack Rathbone as someone who can step in and be a good puck mover for the Canucks. So you're right. That is the one spot that is going to be the make or break for the Canucks. But I think they're happy, and unless something lands in their lap, I think they're happy going into the season with the group that they have. When you've got Hughes and Ekman Larson anchoring the left side, and then you've got the Myers, Hominick, Poolman, and Shen on the right side. I think there's going to be some camp battles with Juolevi, Rathbone, Shen. Don't count out Brad Hunt. I think he might be someone who surprises. But it's going to be, they're going to have some options there, and it's whether or not they have the right mix.
Yeah. there's options. There's going to be a good competition, but between the younger unprovens and the older question marks, there, I have some unease about the defense. But at least they didn't bring back the status quo, because that wasn't working last year either, right? It was just a disaster, especially early in the season.
Yeah, I don't think people have talked about this enough, though, too. I think OEL can play the right side if needed. He's a left-handed shot defenseman. You want him on the left side, but if you need him, he has the flexibility to work on the right side too. So, I think with OEL, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at the contract and they're going to have a lot of expectations. Mm-hmm. And for some fans, there may be a lot that, there's going to be some fans that I think are going to look at whatever his production is, unless he's nominated for the Norris, they're going to not see it. But remember, this guy has scored more than 10 goals a number of times in his career. He's got a really good shot. He is offensively gifted. I'm not as cynical as everyone else on OEL. I know that the contract is a lot, but I really think the versatility, the way he handles the puck, I think he's going to work out fine in Vancouver. I really do.
That he's motivated to have a bit of a comeback. I think the change of scenery alone should probably help in that regard.
That was what I was going to say too. You got to hope that there'll be a refresh for him from a change of scenery.
Yeah, I think
he
that's
specifically wanted to come to Vancouver. Sorry.
Yeah, and the term redemption, I think, is going to be used a lot with this Canucks team this year. I think whether it's Garland and Ekman-Larsson, who felt a little slighted with how they were treated in Arizona the last couple of years, or at least in Garland's case, the fact that he wasn't even offered a contract with them. And then you've got the rest of the Canucks from last year that were not happy with how last year went. So I think you are going to see a bit of them playing with chips on their shoulders, which is what you need to have. So if they play with the chips on their shoulders and they've got the right mix on the blue line, I think there's a good chance the Canucks are going to be surprising those who seem to still want to write them off, because I'm cautiously optimistic of where the Canucks are. I think that they've got the talent, especially up front. They've got the talent that can score with anyone. But I think it's going to all come down to whether or not they've got the right mix of players on the blue line, and how well Ekman-Larsson plays and how well Quinn Hughes learns from last season are going to be the two big keys there. Because not only do you have Ekman-Larsson, but you have Quinn Hughes, who put up points, but he was struggling defensively a lot more than he did in his rookie season. And he needs to figure that out, and hopefully that's just a bump in the road, and he learns from it, and he's able to be just steady on defensively. And if he's steady defensively, and then is putting up the points that we know he can, that's going to be huge to helping the Canucks blue line be what it needs to be.
Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to ask if Quinn struggled last season defensively and he was paired with Hamonic for most of that, and we brought Hamonic back, do we ideally want him paired with Hamonic again? Do we think that he might potentially fall into that same sort of trap, if you will? Or would we want to see potentially someone else? I'm not sure how we want to potentially pair up the defense pairs.
I think they brought Hamonic back because I think Quinn struggled, I think, struggled defensively more at the beginning of the season when Hamonic wasn't Travis, what he is. I don't think we saw the best of Hamonic last year until maybe later on. And then you were still dealing with everything that went with the Canucks with the COVID outbreak and not being fully 100%. So I think they brought him back because I think they do see them being a pair that will work. And I agree. I think it will work that way. it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be paired with OEL, because I think whoever is paired with Ekman-Larsson will be the quote unquote shutdown pair. They'll be the pair that's relied upon to be to carry the more defensive first minutes than a Hughes pairing, and then whether it's the or because the third pair is going to be likely going to be Myers and either Ulevi or Rathbone, and you're not going to want
Pullman would be that second pair.
Yeah, that's what I think.
You don't think there's any? You don't think there's any chance of Hughes Myers pairing?
I think that might be one. We all know how Myers is used by Green, and he'll be thrown out in all situations. He'll be thrown out with Hughes at times. He'll be thrown out with Ekman-Larsson at times. But I think we will see mostly. I think it's going to be Hughes and Hamonic together.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. I mean, I do agree with Jean-Guy. Hello, Jean-Guy. The best of Hamonic is a thing. I don't think you're getting. I mean, I like Hamonic. Hamonic's a warrior, but I think the prime Hamonic isn't there. But I think it's. I mean, I kind of feel like Myers would be a better fit with Hughes, and I can see Hamonic and OEL. I'm having trouble seeing Hamonic as a top pairing defenseman. That's where I struggle with. I just don't see it at this part.
I think when you say top pairing, I look at that and I don't think the Canucks have a quote unquote top pairing right side defenseman right now.
No, but I mean it's
gonna be done by committee. Like, how many times did we see Tyler Myers be put out when the Lions came out, and he's like on the quote unquote third pair, and then by the end of the night he's got the most minutes of all the right side guys. I think we're going to see that again. I think it's going to be pretty much a mix and match, a blender, and I think it's going to be to see what works. I think it's going. I think Pullman and Hamonic, I think, are both going to get a shot with those top, whether it's OEL or Hughes. But I think you're going to have Myers as your sort of veteran for the whoever's that third left side defenseman.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to hear some coach speak, I mean, the coach might say, "Well, I got 3 number 1 pairs." You know, if he tries to balance it. But more realistically, same with forwards. There may not be a defined first pair, second pair, third pair, but probably more clearly there's a third pair, and then your other 2 pairs, which you view in a more equal fashion.
1A, 1B, if you will.
Yeah.
I guess the other question though with that is, does Quinn Hughes need a steady partner like he did when he had Tanev, or
yes.
I think having him bounce around with pairs, I think it was an adjustment for him, and maybe this year I think with another year under his belt he'll be able to adapt to that better. But that was just another challenge that Quinn Hughes had from last year that. You know,
I don't think there's any doubt he missed having Tanev there.
And it wasn't until like they got Hamonic back and play, because we have to remember Travis Hamonic signed really late going into last season, wasn't even part of their abbreviated training camp, and was thrown right into like the first or second game. And so he was a step behind for a lot comparatively to everyone else. So that's why I said I don't think we saw what the current best of Hamonic is. I don't think we saw last year. I don't think we saw it, because I think you throw everything into what he went through, where he had to quarantine and not skate before he played his first game, was behind, and then you throw in everything else that happened, new team and everything. was the same issue with Nate Schmidt. I didn't think we saw the best of Nate Schmidt last year, and I think Winnipeg's going to have a really good player with him. But I do think that we have someone who's going to have a bit of a bounce back season in Travis Hamonic, and I think especially if he's paired with Quinn Hughes, and he'll be able to be that steadying force. And I think that's something that will help Hughes and with playing more consistently with Hamonic from day one.
Yeah, I think that stability definitely is going to help, and I'll agree that we might not have the prime of Hamonic as far as his career is concerned, but I think he's still a quality, serviceable defenseman when he is given enough time to be prepared and attend the training camp and actually be fully involved with the systems prior to just being thrown into the fire.
Oh, he's a warrior. Don't get me wrong. Like he is a warrior, but that's just just my concern there, and it'll be about that. Just want to point out that Jean Guy said, "Hey Kev, looking sharp, buddy." Maybe he thought I was Tyler. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. The other, I'm going to just loop just a tangent here, I guess, in terms of the other question, of course, when we talk about where the Canucks are going to finish is Demko. I mean, obviously you need goaltending. Where is Demko in your ranking of goaltenders in the Pacific Division?
In the Pacific? So
because Fleury's gone. Fleury's gone. He's gone to Chicago. So you got Leonard, Markstrom,
Grubauer in Seattle. I'm going to be bold here, and I'll say 2.
He's in 2 or 3 range. I think because you got in the Pacific.
You got Gibson,
Peterson, and Demko, I think, are probably your top 3. Then you've got Leonard and Grubauer right there as well, and Markstrom, and then way back down there you've got Mike Smith, let alone was it Aiden Hill in San Jose. Yeah, I'd say top 3.
Yeah, I mean, I would say top half. I mean, it depends on where you're at with Markstrom, I guess. But
I think Markstrom's going to have a comeback season next season too. I think because of the injury and just I think potential miscommunication about like systems and whatnot that he had there in Calgary. I think he's going to have a better season this next season. So yeah, that top 5 really is kind of hard to differentiate. Like, I don't think there's anyone like head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah, right now I'm seeing Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton battling for second in the division. And I have it. I'm kind of right now Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary battle in a wild card battle more. But I mean, it's really going to depend a lot on Markstrom and how they fit with Sutter. I mean, the Flames aren't quite. I mean, everyone's waiting on this. This franchise-altering move in Calgary that hasn't happened yet, and we'll see about that. But that's right now what I'm sort of seeing.
Yeah, Kevin, you said earlier in the show here you're I don't know how bold of a prediction is, but you mentioned the Canucks and the possibility of being second in the division. I mean, I think given where they were last year, that's a big jump in the standings. For me, they're chasing a wild card spot probably, but if things go really well, 3rd place, I still think you're going to have Vegas and Edmonton there in the top 2.
I just think to look at the Pacific Division as a wide open division where, if this was the Central, I wouldn't have the Canucks that high, but in the Pacific, I could see the Canucks in a higher position.
Yeah, the Pacific.
I think one of those California teams is going to be better. Right? It's hard to imagine all 3 of them sucking this year. Right?
I think LA is probably the one that's going to pop out the most as far as having a resurgence.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Sean, you were.
Yeah, I think it's wide open. I think it's even wide open 1 through 4 or 5. I don't think that Edmonton's has done enough to. That blue line is worse than it was last year, in my opinion. And you don't. And I'm not sold on whether or not Mike Smith can be the guy again. Can put up have another renaissance year. I don't think Vegas is any better. I don't think they've addressed their issues up the middle, and they just traded. They gave away their Vezina Trophy candidate, Vezina Trophy winning goaltender.
Yeah,
Like they just gave him away. So I think it's wide open. I think we will see some surprises, and LA could be one of them. Vancouver could be one of them. We don't know what's going on with Calgary. Like, can Calgary actually put something together? I think they've got the play, they've got the talent, but do they have the right mix? And that's the question we've had for years with them. So if they
yeah, and I'm not sold that they're going to buy into whatever Daryl Sutter is putting down this year. I mean, there was a bit of a bump initially after the coaching change, and then it slid right back to the mediocre form that they were in prior to the coaching change. So, if I were a Flames fan, I don't know, I'd be reluctant with that.
They definitely brought in like Sutter type players in the offseason, though. So I think to that credit, they might gel a little bit more just because they have more players that play that style that Sutter likes, but we'll see.
I thought they fit the style a little bit more as the season went on. I just still with this team, there's just too much the inconsistency has to be weeded out for them. They are a good comparable sports-wise right now would be the Toronto Blue Jays in the sense not like lots of talent, but you can't ultimately there's going to be something that stubs their toe. That's kind of where I'm at. And the other thing with Vegas, the big story there was the loss of Fleury, but that trade of Ryan Reeves to the Rangers, that was a huge home ice advantage that the Vegas Golden Knights had. They are going to miss Ryan Reeves. That is do not sleep on that one for Vegas as well.
He was a heart and soul type player for them, so I can definitely see that being a decently sized hole. Whether they can replace him with something else, I'm not too sure.
I mean, if they calculated that he was headed for a decline, then the move is probably the right move. But yes, it's a point well made, and in terms of presence and just sort of an X factor for them, that's gone now.
And
he kind of made himself the Western Tom Wilson, if you will.
Yeah.
And also just the way things have been running in Vegas, that's interesting. That it is a little interesting just how they handled the Fleury trade. The Ryan Reeves, a lot of situations being handled there. I'm just
let's go back even further when they decided to change goalies and then change goalies again in the third round against Montreal. I mean, if I'm in that locker room, I'm losing confidence in the coaching.
And the whole Gallant Pete DeBoer thing.
Yeah,
it's very cold. It's very cold-hearted in Vegas. So, and I think. There have been rumblings that the morale of the team and the locker room and the players isn't great because you've lost two big personalities in Fleury and Ryan Reeves in that locker room this year, and it wasn't. And I think there was how they did it. It wasn't the best. Didn't come across well. So I think that is something to look at, let alone their because they went and traded for Nolan Patrick. So I think it might be, as I said, I think it's something to look at. I'm not sold on them being a guaranteed top 2 team in this division.
Yeah,
well, nothing's guaranteed, but you're looking at where they were last year, you'd have to think they're not gonna drop off too far.
I mean, you still have one of the better players in Mark Stone there for sure. There's still some talent there. Don't get me wrong, but it's an interesting situation to keep an eye on in Vegas.
Yeah.
I would say they're still a top tier-ish in the Pacific. It's just I think they're going to see a bit of a drop.
Yeah, and because it's like they how far did they go? 6 games with Montreal? Is it 6? I think.
Yeah.
I mean, almost to the Stanley Cup final. Do we really think they're going to put that kind of a run together again and almost reach or even reach the Stanley Cup final next season? Yeah, I mean, we'll see, but if there's going to be a regression, the circumstances sure look like this. It could happen this coming season.
Yeah. Yeah, it just the Pacific Division is filled with a bunch of questions.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's in large part why you've seen the Canucks get aggressive in the offseason here. They look at it and say, our normal division, the Pacific, is one that we're more competitive in, and then of course there's the Seattle factor there too, and the whole wanting to rivalry and all this, which the Canucks have definitely bought into from a bigger picture perspective. So you could see that, and of course last year they were making all the excuses about the the schedule and travel and COVID and all this sort of thing, but. In a division which was very offensive oriented, that didn't work very well for the Canucks. So hopefully they're playing in some lower scoring games this year.
Yeah. Let's just quickly jump to Abbotsford, because this is another under the little bit of I know that a lot of these signings, I mean, when players are signed, I mean, you're obviously thinking of the big team, so no question about it. But there seems to be a concerted effort this year to build this Abbotsford Canucks. It's still hard for me to say Canucks. I'm still kind of struggling with the nickname, but it's okay. I'll get over it. There has been a specific strategy here with Abbotsford. You move from Utica to Abbotsford. This is your first year. I'm really thinking they're trying to make sure that this team has a good foothold in this market, and in the Abbotsford market anyway. And I feeling I put it all the Calder Cup run, but I feel like that's not quite what I'm trying to say. It feels like they're making sure that this team gets off on the right foot and fans are invested in this team right away. Abbotsford fans are invested in this team right away.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Frankie was willing to open up his wallet and decently spend to construct a decently competitive team in Abbotsford. Whether they're going to be potential championship team in their first season remains to be seen. But I think they definitely are putting it, like you said, a concerted effort to make sure they have a decently competitive team out there.
As well as our friend Rick Dollywall say he thinks they're going to be one of the top teams in the AHL as well.
It also adds depth to your organization. Like you look at the players that they've signed, Giuseppe, Dowling, Patan, Bailey. They're all going to be good players that can come up and play minutes for you when needed. Let alone Brad Hunt, Brady Keeper, and that they're going to get playing time up on with the big team. So I think it's going to be something to watch, because I think you are right, Kevin, in that they are trying hard to make sure that you've got excitement for this team, because we saw that the Heat struggled in Abbotsford, and maybe that was because it was a Calgary Flames product in Vancouver Canucks territory, but you still need to be able to make sure that the fans that are going now are going to be excited to go watch good AHL hockey.
Yeah. What, for those who don't know, I just because when I was, Tyler, you've lived in Kamloops too, there's always that Kelowna-Kamloops kind of rivalry. I'm thinking about Chilliwack and Abbotsford here. Chilliwack has the BCHL team. Abbotsford does not. Is Abbotsford an underserved hockey market?
I probably. It's just geographically, like you're at Abbotsford, you're starting to get kind of far away from Vancouver, right? and there's still a good population there in the Fraser Valley. So I think you probably could say that it's underserved. But yeah, going back to what we were just talking about, if it's not and I think that's why the team's been called the Abbotsford Canucks, because if it's not if the fans can't make that connection with the Canucks brand, it's just going to be hard to generate interest.
I think you still could have done it with a different team name, but still tie it in with the Canucks like franchise and marketing. Like, I'm kind of with Kevin in that regard, that like I kind of wish for a little bit more creativity and originality. That being said, I can definitely understand from the business side of things, it was the easy decision to make.
Yeah, I just don't know. I'm just curious how people perceive the hockey in Abbotsford, because they don't have a WHL team. It feels like they're sort of like the cousins of Chilliwack. So Chilliwack has a team, so we don't like it's Chilliwack, Abbotsford, sort of close by. So I don't know.
What team plays in Chilliwack? Because I thought the Bruins moved out to Victoria.
They have a BCHL team.
Oh, BCHL. Okay.
Yeah, they're sort of like, when you think of hockey, you sort of Chilliwack gets the teams, and it just doesn't feel like Abbotsford gets much. Abbotsford feels like they get the Bibles, and Chilliwack gets the team. Sorry, that was you're all day. Try the view.
Don't know how to react to that one, Kevin.
Anyway, yeah, I'm curious. It's just something I'm curious, and I mean, do we know also? I haven't seen anything yet, but the TV rights on that as well, I think that will be interesting as well on the radio rights. I don't think that's been decided yet.
Not that I know of. I don't know if there's going to be a TV deal, honestly. Radio, I would imagine they'll sign with one of the local stations out in Abbotsford, and probably maybe some streaming of games or something. I can't see a TV station wanting to pick that up.
Yeah, we'll see. Moving on, just quickly, we'll touch on the Flames here quickly. Oliver Kylington signed a two-way $750,000 contract. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I was really surprised no one tried to offer sheet him. I know that he's not the greatest defenseman in the world, but that seemed like a pretty, was a pretty would have been someone I would have thought if you were going to do offer sheets. By the way, we're pro offer sheet here on the Hockey Podcast. We encourage the offer sheet. As a matter of fact, I've just offer sheeted Devin just for the hell of it. So,
hashtag Team Chaos.
Yeah, Team Chaos. Yeah. But that would have been one I would have thought would have been an offer sheet. I'm kind of surprised that this agreement happened, but
he doesn't want to. I know Kylington hasn't really fit in with the Flames, but I think he's not. I don't think for his career going back over to Europe to play would work. He's still got to stay and play NHL, be in the NHL, going at least for this upcoming season. And I think he is going to be potential trade bait going forwards, though, because I think it's I think he's someone I think needs a change of scenery, because I think he has the talent to be a top 6 NHL defenseman, like a good 4 or 5 guy, I think, but he just needs the opportunity, and I think he's going to be in a big battle to get any sort of minutes on the left side when you've got Zadorov and you got Mackey and Valimaki, and then let alone your Hannafin as well. So I think it's going to be he's going to have to work really hard to get ice time with the Flames. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I mean, there's still some work to do in the Flames. We've talked about that. We could talk about that endlessly, but I just wanted to touch on that because that was the news. Some news came down from the Leafs at Friday night, about 8 or 9 o'clock Toronto time, that Auston Matthews had surgery on his wrist, and his recovery time is 6 months.
Weeks. 6 weeks.
Or 6 weeks. Sorry, it's not 6 months. Sorry.
Give all the Leaf fans the heart attack.
What?
Yeah.
the timing of that was interesting. I found the timing interesting. Of that Friday night, late Friday night tweet on that surgery. I thought was quite interesting.
No, it's classic news dump on a Friday.
Yeah, I'm trying to get, so I guess just kind of slide it under the radar. Hope nobody notices and catch up. But I would suspect he should be fine for the year. But yeah,
I mean, anytime a player or anybody goes through surgery, there's a bit of unease with that. You know, hoping that it's successful, hoping that the recovery timeline is not, that it's accurate and that the he can be ready in that timeline. But 6 weeks, I mean, there doesn't seem to be at this point any concern about him being ready for the regular season.
Yeah, 6 weeks would be just before training camp start.
I think, I think that was definitely strategically timed.
Yeah, I think it's a little late to be making that it's having a 6 week recovery. I think you'd want to have a couple weeks of buffer, but it's still. I would prefer to have a little bit more buffer if I was to have it, but there's still enough. Like the season doesn't start till October 12th, so he's gonna have he'll still have another 2.5 weeks to get to be ready. So, and with it being a risk, he can still do he can still skate and do cardio that way. So it's not like he's going to be like completely out of shape. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think talent of Auston Matthews is going to have much trouble getting the hands back.
No.
I think the preseason will be plenty enough time for him to figure it out.
True. Yep. You agree, but it was interesting. The timing of I thought the timing of that tweet was interesting anyway, but that's what struck me.
Kevin's always looking for some kind of into there, isn't he?
I'm looking for the angles, man.
The good news man in him there. Eh? He's been taught well.
Yes. Thanks, Brian, and everybody at BCIG. Before we get we'll dig into the goaltending one. I did want to touch on the fact that Winnipeg, Jean-Guy will appreciate this. They will have a Dale Hawerchuk statue across from the new arena there. He's one of the icons of Winnipeg. Still, one of my all-time favorite hockey players. So I'm glad that they're going to have that there. Probably one of the best athletes to ever play in Winnipeg, and a guy. Just for you young kids out there, go find some Dale Hawerchuk highlights. Very talented player that was just playing in an era where Wayne Gretzky and then the Edmonton Oilers were just that much better. That was the Oilers, the Flames, and the Jets were three really good hockey teams that were just like, it was not the Pacific Division of now. It was that Smythe division was brutal. That was, the Oilers were good, the Flames were good, the Jets were good. There was a lot of three of the Jets they couldn't get over that hump of the Oilers. But that's Dale Hawerchuk is one of those guys. Look him up, you youngins.
You're here.
Yes.
I need a Don Taylor cane, right? I should get on my own cane.
Either that or do like the Don Cherry piano playing.
No. No.
I always, just a quick aside, I always love when he was mad about something. He's pounding his fist on the desk, and it's literally like 3 centimeters from Ron McLean's hand. Like he's going to break his finger if if he's off with the fist pound a little bit.
Maybe that's why Ron McLean could never say anything about Cherry Scott. Like I got to be careful with my fingers here. Never mind. Anyway. So the Tony Esposito passed away this week. It was the story of Chicago Blackhawks legendary goaltender, played in the 70s and the 80s. I did a little bit of a tweet up on podcast on the podcast hockey podcast Twitter account, some of the things that he's done. One of the top goaltenders to ever play this game. Certainly one of the top goaltenders to ever play in Chicago. Little known fact that he played one game in the Summit Series. A lot of people forgot that. Nikolai Habibulin had a shutout on Esposito's night. Also helped his brother along with his brother Phil, founded the Tampa Bay Lightning. the $18 million over the cap Stanley Cup champions. I guess did we know Tony had anything in terms of where we want to put Tony Esposito on the all-time list?
I think he's sort of in that 8, 9, 10 range. If he's in the top 10, he's in that area. He's someone who, when you think of goaltenders, you do have your sort of the top 4 or 5 that you're gonna talk about. And then I feel like he's in in the discussion for the next tier.
Yeah, I don't. This is a topic where it's really hard to rank. I mean, for me, I would just in terms of top all-time goalies. I mean, I'd throw out just a few names here, just to put in the same mix here. Waugh, Brodeur, Hasek, Richter. I mean, those are a few to me that I think over the that they're gonna meet that test of time, and we're gonna say that they're all-time goalies. So Tony Esposito, I'm kind of with Sean. I think a top 10 all-time goalie. I think that's reasonable to say. But boy, there's some tough debates over who you'd have as a top 5 per se.
Yeah, agreed. And I actually looked up the stat. He's 10th overall for wins all time for goalies.
I mean, it's funny. We talked last week about who we would have in our Mount Rushmore, and that's sort of where the idea came from. And it's funny, like in the top 10, I don't like a top 10 all time. Does anyone have a goalie in the top 10 of their all time greatest players?
No, I wouldn't. But that's if there was someone in a top 10 for top 10 players of all time, and you're going to put a goalie in there, like the 3 that you're gonna put in there are going to be Waugh, Brodeur, or Hasek, right?
And no offense to Hasek, I'd even just put Waugh and Brodeur as like slightly higher up than Hasek.
And as always, when we have these discussions, it's difficult to compare eras, and I think even more so when we're talking about goaltending. I mean, goaltending is vastly different in the last 20 years, let's say, than before that. So, like a guy like Ken Dryden, I mean, he's regaled as a this awesome goalie from the past, but that was a long time ago. How do we, where do we put that? And when Carey Price's career is done, where does he fit in this list, right? Like there's a difficult one. When you put this on the agenda, I'm like, oh boy, this is not going to work.
Well, my Mount Rushmore would be Waugh, Hasek, Brodeur, Dryden.
There you go.
I'll show my bias and I'll throw Luongo in there. You're going to go Brodeur, Waugh, Hasek, and then the contentious one's going to be that 4th spot. Yeah.
And for me, I think it's either Jacques Plante or Terry Sawchuk for me, just because I think that
I didn't even mention those.
They changed the game. Plante with the mask, and Sawchuk was just one of the 103 shutouts in his career. Like it's Brodeur at 125, Sawchuk at 103, and then the next. And then you got Luongo at 77, Hasek at 81, Plante at 82. Like it's just there's what Terry Sawchuk did. I don't think because it's so far back, I don't think people realize how good he was.
Yeah.
And then you have Glenn Hall.
Yeah.
Also, and Tony Esposito, it was 8 straight years, 60 or get more games in the National Hockey League. I mean, we just now we see a 60 game a goalie. We're like, that's way too much. That was what they were doing back then. I mean, to be fair, the other side of that is some of the currents will say that you didn't have the travel that we did now, and that's fair, but still, you look at that. Too, Glenn, I mean, Johnny Bauer. Did you mention him? Yeah, you didn't mention him too, right? You didn't. I mean, it's very tough. And There's Oiler fans will jump into McGrant Fuhr. There are Flames. I mean, Canuck fans will talk about Luongo McLean. Flames fans can talk about Kiprusoff.
It's just, and as you said, the game's changed so much, and how goalies are treated and how goalies train, and that the position of a goalie and how you play it has changed so much. Wah brought in the butterfly when he came in. That changed things, and it was a lot more reflexes and just it was completely different back in the 80s, and let alone the 70s, and then we started to see a little bit of what we see now with goaltenders in the 90s, but it's still drastically different. It's just it's one of those. It's something that's so hard because of how much has changed to try and put together a list.
You would almost have to have like a lack of a better term, like a golden oldies Mount Rushmore, and then like a current Mount Rushmore.
Yeah,
true. And then you have also, I mean, the other question, and to put in this list, to throw an anchor in this, is Tretiak has to be somewhere on in this conversation. I mean, yes, he did not play in the NHL, but he was one of the greatest goaltenders to ever play the game, for sure. Like that's not debatable. Like he was an all-time great.
Yep.
Anything else? Is there anything else any topic that I missed that we should be talking about?
I guess we never specifically talked about the Ulevy and Dickinson signings, but I'm just glad the Canucks got them done. Other than that, I don't really have much.
Yeah, it seems like the feedback on the Dickinson AAV at $2.65 million, I believe, that's been well received by people. And then Oli Ulevy taking the league minimum of $750,000. That's great news from a team standpoint as well.
Yeah, so instead of 4 RFAs assigned, we are down to 2.
Yes, and then there were 2.
Yes, the two big morsels on the meat.
Yeah.
I guess we should give a shout out to contributor Joel Gaudette. Hearty congratulations, as he got married yesterday. So we congratulate him. All the best to that. Yes, I don't have much else to say, but congratulations and good luck. And Joel's a great guy. So
yeah. Congratulations, Joel. Happy for you, and we'll get you back on here soon.
Yes, for sure.
And just before we go, Kevin, the schedule release this year was a bit of an odd one where the dates were put out, but not the start times. Now we have start times. And yes, it has to be noted, Leafs at Canucks, Saturday, December 18th, and it is a 4:00 start in Vancouver. Just
never change.
So we're
Saturday, makes sense.
Nature is healing. We're back to the old ways. There's going to be great consternation about that. Just so everybody knows. Had to look that one up.
It's fun. I was saying this yesterday in the chat. Living down here, I don't mind a 4:00 game every once in a while. I don't mind that. But the 5:00 game in Alberta bothers me. We have to watch a CFL game at 5:00 in Calgary and Edmonton. I feel that's weird. I just feel it's a weird time.
Yeah, I
interrupt with your dinner plans or what?
Yeah, my nap time. It's right in my nap time, and
the schedule looks about what I expected in terms of start times. You get you go out east, and then to the Metropolitan Division, you have your afternoon games, and but it's the 4:00 with the Leafs. I totally expected it, especially on a Saturday. Like my only time when I get annoyed with when they do that is if they do it if it's like a Wednesday night game and they want to have that early start, but it's Saturday and most people are you got enough people on Saturdays that starting it at 4:00 local is not going to be that big a deal.
Yeah, now in the recent years, they've tried to get the Leafs to play the Oilers on the Saturday when they make their Western Canadian trip. So I am a little surprised that that's not the case this year. But typically, it's always been Canucks Leafs on a Saturday to maximize that Hockey Night in Canada audience with two big markets.
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like you've got your two biggest English speaking markets that on the Saturday and prime time in the East, and it's still at a time where the West can watch it. Yeah, it makes total sense.
Yep.
I would also argue the largest markets for Punjabi speakers as well because of their alternate broadcasts that they also do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's also true as well. So December 5th, Maple Leafs Jets, 4:00. Okay, yeah, I'm just going through the Leafs schedule here. The Maple Leafs Flames 6-7 local. Maple Leafs Oilers 6-7 local as well. So they're
on a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday, yeah, that's rather interesting because I usually Matthews McDavid would be a marquee matchup, but then they also got Maple Leafs Kraken. That will. I wonder if the Western Maple Leaf fans will be taking a trip down to Seattle that weekend.
Good question. Yeah.
If the borders are open, I can definitely see a lot of people doing that for sure.
Yeah. I know that a lot of Blue Jay fans are regretting not being in Seattle this weekend for sure, and their usual jaunt. But anyway, let's leave it there. How do we follow everyone?
I am BeardyConnect03 on Twitter.
I'm on Twitter at TNoble, TNOBLE.
I am at Schneids on most social media.
Devin is GordHow09, where you can see him there. Podcast_hockey, Facebook.com to YouTube.com hockey podcast. Subscribe, like, share, etc. Keep an eye out for our news packs. I do the weekend one. I'll do Sunday to Friday. We'll look out for that. I did not Saturday so much because there's not as much news. So keep an eye out for that. And thanks everyone. And we will talk to you all very soon. Next Sunday specifically. Bye for now.